Israel says a fresh wave of missiles has been launched into Iran in the past hour after Israel launched a series of strikes against the Iranian capital.
Now, G7 leaders are preparing a response at their meeting in Canada, with the US President Donald Trump saying that Iran is not winning this war and should talk before it is too late. For some more analysis now, we're joined by senior reporter and former Middle East correspondent Ben Knight. Ben, g'day and welcome back to News Breakfast.
Morning.
Now, there have been these fresh missile strikes that are happening actually as we go to air this morning. Tell us the latest that we know.
Well, the sirens went off probably about 15 minutes ago in Israel. We were watching the skies to see if the threatened barrage from Iran was coming in. It didn't look like it, and in fact, we've just heard from our reporters they're back out of the shelters now. It appeared to be some rocket fire coming in. So not that massive barrage that Iran has been threatening. They had said that there were going to be some of the biggest barrages of this conflict so far coming in. That probably will still happen. It's really only just 1 o'clock in the morning in Israel, and the worst of it tends to happen around 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. So definitely keeping an eye out for that one. But look, the conflict is ramping up again. We have another day where it's getting more intense, and certainly the rhetoric is getting more intense as well. You have Israel warning the residents of Tehran to get out. Now you have the Iranians warning the residents of Tel Aviv and Israel to evacuate. So it's definitely ramping up, and as we know, at the same time, there's talk that at least the Iranians are wondering if there might be an off-ramp here or some way of negotiating peace, but for the moment it definitely continues, and we would be expecting to see more of those incoming rockets and missiles into Israel this evening.
Yeah, we're just looking at some of the aftermath of some of those recent strikes. Now, Ben, Israel hasn't really dealt with something like this for a pretty long time, has it?
Well, no, not really. This is not the type of conflict that Israelis are used to, and obviously we're talking about a country that is very well used to conflict. It has been, you've had that rocket fire that has come in from Gaza and from southern Lebanon. Of course, that's terrifying and terribly damaging, but it's not a ballistic missile. At the same time, Israel has been fighting what's called an asymmetric war for many years. That's more of an insurgency or guerrilla or terrorism. People would remember during the Second Intifada the spate of suicide bombings, and so that has, of course, its own terrifying aspect. You never know when something is going to go off. You can be thinking that you're living a normal life, and suddenly the bus or the restaurant explodes. Israel has pretty much tamped down that through several means. But this is different. This is war against a country. These are ballistic missiles that are coming in wave after wave from another country. So it will be interesting to see how the Israeli population holds up. There's support for the attack on Iran. There is support for taking out any Iranian weapons program. That's long been the case in Israel. But Israelis have not had to deal with something like this for a very, very long time.
Just before we let you go, Ben, Donald Trump keeps talking about a deal, saying that Iran should do a deal before it's too late. Israel's talking about this operation going potentially for weeks. How likely is a ceasefire, do you think?
Well, I would think that if Benjamin Netanyahu has anything to do with it, it's pretty unlikely. And the reason for that is just have a look at what's happening in Gaza. It's still going on. Have a look at what was happening in southern Lebanon when he went after Hezbollah. If he has an advantage and he has an objective, his modus operandi seems to be push and push and push, despite the pressure coming from outside, until you have achieved what you wanted. And having said that, in Gaza, it's still going on. 34 people were killed in Gaza in the last 24 hours at an aid station. We're seeing figures like that every day. There are still airstrikes going on in Gaza. So that's despite all of the international pressure for a ceasefire there. It still hasn't happened. The Iranians will be pushing hard. It's the Gulf states that are likely to get involved. But again, a lot rests on the US president. We really don't know where he stands on this.